Okay, welcome to Class 14 of Introduction to Flash. Today we are going to finish up looking at the process of creating the files necessary for the final project. I'm going to just walk you through the steps involved with the Section 3 video. And the Section 3 video is actually very straightforward and very easy. It's basically focuses on loading external video files. So just to take a look at what the instructions look like, this movie focuses on loading external video files and downloading the video progressively so that the viewer can watch it as it is downloading. So a little explanation in terms of what downloading video progressively means. There's two types of downloading primarily used with Flash video files. One is called streaming and one is called progressive downloading. So streaming is done when you have a streaming server. It's a specific type of server technology that allows for streaming the video, and it's a fairly complex and expensive process that most people, unless you're a fairly large corporation, don't use. What we use in this class and for consumer level use of Flash video is progressive downloading, which means that the Flash ActionScript looks at the video and buffers a certain amount of that video onto your Flash player within your project, and then starts playing it after about 2 or 3 seconds of video has been downloaded. So you're not needing to download the entire video in order to watch it, just enough to get the video player started, and as the video is playing, more video is being progressively downloaded. So the way we accomplish that task in Flash with the Flash components that we've been using over the last couple of weeks are that we utilize the FLV playback component, which lets you control which video plays, whether the video plays automatically, and other aspects of the playback. This assumes that you're using the FLV files located in the video subfolder of the downloaded files. If you choose your own videos and convert them to FLV files, you're earning 4 extra points, as this is an additional learning process. It's not very complicated, but it is something that we did not cover in class. If time allows today, I will show you how to do that. So when you first put the first movie onto the stage, we're going to make sure that we leave autoplay turned off, because when someone gets to a web page and there's either music playing or video playing without their consent, that's considered bad etiquette and is extremely annoying. So we always want to make sure that the autoplay is turned off and give the user the option to turn autoplay on when they want to. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the steps in the instructions to construct the Section 3 video. So I'm going to move my instructions aside, and I'm going to just pull up the necessary files in order to accomplish this. So I'm opening up Flash, and I've got some other files here that I've been working on that I'm going to be sharing with you very soon, because there are, I think the biggest problem that people are having has to do with figuring out all of the error messages that they get, which most of the time are due to typing errors. So that being said, I'm going to open up the files we need for Section 3, which means I'm going to go into my folder and find the necessary files. And I'm going to just open all of these because we want to make sure that they all play as per instructed. Okay. Okay, click on OK. There we go. It's not finding the font. I must have not installed this font since the last time I've created this project. So that's perfectly fine. I'm not worried about that. Okay, so let's close what we don't need. Almost there. Section 3, section 1. We close that one. Okay. So, section 3. Basically what we're going to be using is we're going to be using a thing called an FLV playback controller. So when you open section 3, the first step that you're going to be doing is you're going to be copying your background from your base movie. And you've done that several times, so I don't need to go over that process with you. The main thing that you want to keep in mind, as you see here in the bottom layer of my timeline, this background layer is turned to a guide layer, because the actual background is being picked up from my base movie right here. This movie has its background layer not turned into a guide layer. You can see its icon looks like all of the icons of the other layers, whereas in all of the rest of my movies that, well, this is the same actually, in all the rest of my movies, that base layer is got a little like protractor or whatever you call it, a square, a T-square, that indicates that that layer is not going to publish, and it is just there in order to make sure that you know not to build over it, right? So the section 1, same thing. Section 2, it's called layer 11, but we know that's also the background layer. And finally, section 3, it's labeled as a background layer. So then the next step, step 3 in the homework instruction says customize your logo banner to match the theme for this movie. Okay, that's no problem. And then it says these instructions assume that the FLV files with the proper names are located in your videos folder. So you received the section 3 movie with the video folder, and it already had the content within it. Basically, what you're needing to do is to construct this timeline as you see it here, right? So you're supposed to create a labels layer, and on that labels layer, you're going to create 3 labels. And as you can see right up here in the properties panel, when I have, let's just make sure we've got the steps right here. Building the video player layer. Yeah, let's see. We've got, let's start with the video player layer. So here's our video player layer right over here. And you see that with frame 1 of the video player layer, you're going to choose window component. So I'm going to take this component off so you can see me actually do it. And frame 1 is selected, and I choose window components, and within this dialog box you can see there are a variety of user components, and one of the components that we're looking for is down at the bottom. So we're going to close user interface, and we're going to open up video player, and you see it says FLV playback, right? So we're going to drag the FLV playback component onto the stage. We're going to position it, and I've already set up some guides for myself, which I've pulled down from the ruler at the top or at the side to customize the position of my video playback component. Okay, so I've put my video playback component in place, and I size it to my liking, and this looks fine to me. And then I select the parameters tab, and here's my component parameters, right? And first thing you can do is you can choose your skin. So let's see if I'm missing something. There's my position and size. Here's my skin, and I can click here, and I can choose any of the skins that you see listed over here. So I can start selecting skins, and actually once I choose one skin, I can use my arrow keys just to cycle through the various skins that are there and determine which one that I like. So having one below is going to use more space. That's certainly an option. So let's just, for right now, I'm going to choose that skin. But I could also go in and change the color to match my background. So I choose a color that matches my background, and then I click on OK. Now I'm going to position that a little higher because of the fact that I've got that drop-down skin. And hopefully it will not overlap with my my header content. If I go back to here, I can see it very well might overlap with my header content. But what I can do is I can decide after I set the whole thing up and play it and see how I like it. At that point, I can go back and make the necessary adjustments. The other option that you have is you can auto-hide that skin, but the whole idea of having it below there is that you're not going to be, you want it to be that obvious that the end user can actually see the skin at all times. So then the next thing you have to do is you have to set the source. And to set the source, you have to click on your little pencil here, and you browse to your videos folder. And in your videos folder, you'd be looking for your video. I'm not seeing mine here, so I might have to find, there we go, I'll take those. And I'll select my video, and I'll click on Open. And it says a check mark. Do you want to match the source dimension? Now this is a tricky thing because on one hand, matching the source dimension is true to the movie, but it might not be true to your layout. So if you know that you want your player to be this size, the window that your player is going to play in, then you're going to deselect where it says match source dimension. But I think I've set mine up to, oh, mine's pretty darn big. Okay, so now I have several choices. I can go back, I can deselect where it says match source dimension, and then say OK. But at this point, actually, I'd have to go back 2 steps. So I go back to here, where I haven't put my video in yet, and I will choose source. I'll browse. I'll select my file. I'll choose Open, and I'll deselect where it says match source dimension. And now it's going to bring in that movie, and now obviously it's going to fit in that window. Keep in mind, for best practices, you would want to make sure that if you are downsizing your video, that you actually do it in a video editing program, because what you're doing here is you're taking a large video file, which means not only is it large in terms of dimensions, but it's also large in terms of file size, and you're putting it into a smaller container. If you're going to use a smaller container, might as well use a smaller video. Okay, so I've chosen the skin that I like. I've pointed to my video, and then I go through the process of adding a keyframe. Let's go back to here. Adding a keyframe on frame 10, on frame 16, and by adding a keyframe, all I'm doing is, why this window is being annoying because it's probably looking for a video that it can't find. So let me just go find all the proper videos. And I'll go back here and find this video. Okay. Now that it's found those two videos, and then I'll go back to my other timeline keyframe, and I'm going to size this according to how my other videos are sized. So in order to do that, best thing to do is to pull out a guide from my side ruler, and now go back to frame 1 and size this video accordingly. And based on what I'm seeing here with my skin, I'm going to choose a different skin as well. So I'm going to go here to my skin, and I'm going to choose skin that shows up only when you roll over it. That's good. I'll click on OK. I'll now select this object and reselect my source video and click on OK, and I should be seeing it. Why is it not stretching across like the other one is? Okay, I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to pull a new FLV player out. It's always good to see the teacher make changes as he goes along. And I'll drop it there. I'll close this. And I'm going to resize this before I put the video, and that's apparently what the player is wanting me to do. And now I can choose my source one more time and click on Open and not match the source dimension videos. I'm very surprised by that. Okay, well, that was thoroughly unexpected. Tell you what I'm going to do just for... No, it's... Why is it doing that? That's completely a design issue. It's not a programming issue, so I'm going to skip over it for now. But as you can see, I've got frame 1, frame 10, and frame 16 with the videos in place. And this one doesn't seem to have the video in place the way the other two do. Let's just recheck that source video line. Okay, what if I do this and then size it down? How about if I do that? Huh. Well, that's what it seems to be doing. So I've got my 3 keyframes on my video player layer. I've instructed the video on the first keyframe. If I look at my properties panel and I select my video, I've instructed it on the first keyframe, and here where it says preview, that's where the other two have the preview set so you can see it. I've got my volume set to full. 1 is set to full. The skin background alpha is set to 1, which is full. That's 100% visible. Autoplay is set to on, and I'm going to turn that off. Whereas for the other two, it's okay to have autoplay turned on, because once you get there, well, I guess I didn't have it turned on there either. But once you get there, you would assume that the person is going to want to see that movie. So I'm going to turn the autoplay on for sections 2 and sections 3. And I've lowered the skin background alpha on the other two slightly. And it looks like there's no consistency there. But I've got the scale mode set to exact fit. So you can scale your videos as well. And let me just check that. Maybe that's my issue here. My scale mode, I'm going to change to exact fit. Okay, that was my problem. So that's kind of a good thing to know about. And I've got that video. For some reason, that video is not showing up within this window before we start to play. But I do have autoplay turned off. I have a line put in the center. And at this point, I can test this and see what we've got. And the first thing that you'll notice is that there is no video, there is no skin around this, and that's because the background layer is coming from someplace else. So when I click on this, and I click on play. The reason that let me shut the volume here. The reason that that video is showing up as black is because the first frame of that video is black because it's fading in. So then I click on the next keyframe, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Control B for boy, because what that does is it brings up the bandwidth profiler at the top of the screen. And you can see we're on frame 1 right now. You can see how much data has been loaded. This is 128K that's been loaded, and the rest is streaming in as we go along. Okay, I click on the next button, and you'll notice at the top of the screen, and let me lower the volume again. At the top of the screen, we see the playback head is moved to frame number 10. Okay, I click here on frame 20. And the same thing happens. The playback head goes on, and we see the playback head is moved on to frame 20, and our video starts playing. Okay, so these are all some of my fun trips. So we've set up our video player layer. The video button layer, basically, you're going to your libraries panel, you're opening the libraries panel, and you're dragging button 1, whoopsie, not those button, the video assets folder, and you can see you're dragging button 1, button 2, and button 3 onto the stage. Now, one thing is very important to keep in mind is this, you've got 2 objects that say video button. One of them, though, says video space button 2, for example, whereas the one right below it says video underscore button 2, and that's what the instructions say, video underscore. The other thing is, this is not a button here. This is a movie clip. We know that because this is the icon for a movie clip, and if you don't believe that, you go to your right-click on the icon in the properties in the library and choose properties, and we can see right here it says the type of this file is a movie clip. So the way this works is that this movie clip is nested inside of this button. Okay, so where the instructions say bring the video button 1, 2, and 3 onto the stage respectively, you've got to make sure that you're using buttons. Like it says in the instructions, select the buttons and give them instance names. So when I select those buttons, I drag them to the stage. If I click on one of them, you see in the properties panel, I have the name video underscore button 1. Now, I'm going to emphasize right now that any spelling errors will make your production non-functional. When it comes to programming, when it comes to paths to a file, or when it comes to a script being compiled and being told to get a object that's named, in this case, lowercase video underscore lowercase button 1, that's the only object it's going to look for, and if it doesn't find that, it's going to throw an error message, and it's not going to work. So what I'm finding by going through people's files is some carelessness in typing, and a single type error, you have to go back and repair that, because it's just one of those things. It's not like the rest of the program is going to function. When one error occurs, it pretty much stops the whole program from functioning. So that's just the nature of programming for the most part. I mean, there are some elements that will function with other error messages around, but most of them will not. Okay, so please pay very careful attention to your typing and double check, triple check, etc. So what about scripting the video buttons? The script is very, very easy, and I'm going to bring up the script for you so you can see it. I hit the F9 key to bring up my actions panel when I have the actions layer selected, and the first frame just says stop. So basically, this is going to stop the main timeline, right? and that's a comment that I put up there, and the comments are just to help you understand what's going on. And then we see it says this.video_button1 add event listener, right? So basically what we're doing here is we're doing the same process that we've been doing all throughout the last month and a half, and that is creating functions and adding event listeners to objects that when those objects get selected and clicked on, in this case, they invoke the functions that we've created, right? So use a combination of creating functions and calling those functions with event listeners, or listeners in this case. Okay, so that's what we've got going on here. Now, just to point out one other little thing, how do you always know what's available to call? Well, I've shown you to use this little icon, insert a target path, before, and I'll just show you one more time. If I click on this insert a target path icon, it shows me what's available on the stage. If I select video_button1, then it already sets the predefined path. And in this case, it's using object this. Well, basically, object this means the main timeline. It's referring to the stage. It's saying the object that we're looking at is the stage object, and we're looking at it from its own vantage point. In other words, the script is located on the actions layer of the main timeline. So it's saying this .video_button1. Now the truth of the matter is, if you don't even have object this in there, without of course that first dot, your player is going to work anyway, because it assumes that you're on that main timeline. But putting in this is just a way to ensure that the path is correct. Nevertheless, inserting a target path is going to set that up for you, and then all you have to do is to type in your event listener pointing to that object and define the event, and specifically what type of event is going to be needed in order for you to call that function that is provided. Keep in mind, there are several ways to set it up, either having your event listener and your function one after the other, or listing all your functions first and putting your event listeners after. Either one is fine. It's just the way, however you're working at that time, or however your thinking is going on. So that's all that you need for your actions. Basically, we're saying each button is going to be listening for a mouse event, .click, and this word click is all uppercase. This is what this is called a constant, and all of the mouse events that you can choose to call are going to be uppercase like that. There is a shorthand version of it, but just to use the ones that we have here is a good, safe way to go. I'm going to just show you by right-clicking, and for me to say View Help. It's going to launch this mouse event program. But you'll see down in my list, here are my constants. And you can see by looking at this list of constants, and I'm going to put this link into today's chat window. You can see by looking at these constants what different mouse events you can use. Everything from click to double click to middle click to mouse down, mouse move, mouse out, mouse over, etc. There are lots and lots and lots of different constants to use. And right next to that, you can see the shorthand string value that you can use. So for the word click, you can use lowercase click with quotes around it. That's not a big help, but that's certainly something that is available as an option. Okay, so back to our Flash, And then so we have our event listener, and then we have our function. Our function space click listener 1 is listening for an event, specifically a mouse event, :void. Remember, this :void is necessary and basically is saying the function is not returning a value. It's not outputting a value of any type to any output window. It's just a function that's going to be doing something else. In this case, it's a very simple function, go to and stop, and it's stopping on that label. Now remember, we've talked about these things before, but just as a reminder, when you are going to a label, you always have quotes around it. When you see text that is green, that means it is a string. It is a word that is recognized as such in the Flash player. So when we go back to here and we look at our timeline, video 1, that's a label. We see it right. Oopsie, I just removed that label. No, I hope not. Video 1, that's a label that's showing up right over here. Video 2, it's a label again showing up in the frame label. And video 3 showing up, here's the properties, label, name, video 3. But when we call this with ActionScript, we have to have quotes around it because it's a label. It's not an ActionScript keyword of any kind, right? So we've got our label set up. We've got our video player, our video buttons. Our background layer is set up to be a guide layer, and our actions layer is already set up as well. So with all of that being done, we've essentially finished our final project. At this point, I should be able to go through this and test to see if it works. So the first, I've got one error message here. Well, I've got one warning and one error message. You'll notice the warning says, fonts should be embedded for any text that may be edited at runtime. Other than text used with device font setting, use the text font embed command to embed fonts. Now, we've already done that, and the only reason that that's showing up is because when I created this file last year, I probably didn't reinstall some of these font sets that I was using because I reformat my hard drive to have fun sometimes. That's tells you a little too much about me. But down here is something more serious, error 2044 unhandled I/O error. This is a very common error, unhandled I/O error. I/O means input-output error, right? And then it's telling me specifically it's a stream error, okay? I already know what that is just by looking at it. It has to do with my sound. We're not hearing any sound because what it's saying, hey, I can't find the sound that I'm supposed to stream in. It would be nice if programming language was that simple, but it isn't. So you just have to play with the programming. You just have to play with the program long enough until you know what's going on. So I'm going to have to just go check my path because I can't click here and browse to file. You know, that's just not how it works. So I'm going to go out to my folder. Hello, folder there. Oh, you're already open over there. Okay, and I'm going to go find where I have my Flash project, and it's looking for sounds that are out here, whereas oh, there is a sound in here, but there's nothing in it. Okay, so that being the case, let's see if we have a sound out here. Sure, I've got some sounds. Why don't I copy this one? So I'll just copy it. I'll go here. I'll paste it into here. I'll go back to Flash, and I will change this path and choose that file. I'll save it. I'll hit the F9 key to get this actions panel out of the way. And now I'll test it by going Command Control Enter. And now the only message I'm getting is something about my fonts. But if I click on Sound On, pause, I can now go to my photo gallery. That's I think Flash Movie 1 or 2, I forget. It's all right. Basically, I have that functionality. I go back home. This is my home button right here. I can now go to dynamic text. Of course, I could have gone to it from this way as well. And here's another nice little error. It says unhandled input-output error again, and it can't find the ActionScript.txt file. Not a problem. I go back to where my files are located, and I did this specifically for everybody to see how these errors are just pretty darn common. You just have to repair the errors and know what it is that you're finding, or know what it is that you're looking for as you go along. So I've got my ActionScript back in here, and I go back to Flash. I can republish. Here's my movie, republish. And now when I go to dynamic text, there's my text showing up, right? I still get a font error, not a font error, but a warning that fonts should be embedded. I click on video clip. My video clips show up. They play automatically except the first one, right? Okay. And I can stop that, and I can go back to other sections. I can go back home, and I can click on this Contact Us, which is going to launch the program. So those are all of the steps involved in the process. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my movies, and I'm going to open up a file from one of my students, and the names are not important. It's very common, the sets of errors that I'm seeing with the files that I'm receiving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little marker in here, and basically it's going to be a marker that says fixing coding errors. Okay, so what I'm going to focus on now is I'm going to focus on looking at some files for the final project, and basically there are a variety of issues that come up, but most of them need to be fixed from there can be coding errors in every one of your files, but I'm finding that if you have coding errors in your base movie, then you can't, a lot of students just can't seem to go beyond that. So here's what I've got. I've got main, and I've got the SWF version of that file already published in a separate folder. I've got section 1 and that SWF file published in a separate folder. The same thing with section 2, and then finally the base movie. And all of those files are in the same folder. They're all published in that same folder, but it's all predicated on that first movie working. So I test it, and the first thing that you see is your movie is playing on its own. So this right here is an indicator that you've got problems. If the movie is playing on its own, there's more sitting there. If the movie is playing on its own, then there is bound to be some error message. There's bound to be some coding errors, because the only thing, your stop action, which is a total of 7 characters, STOP, open paren, close paren, semicolon, that's not hard to type. So if you're seeing this happening, you've got some other coding errors. And you can also see pause is laying on top of sound on, and they're both appearing, so the script isn't running. Now, there are two types of errors that you're going to see. This one that you see in the compiler errors window is a good one. It's good because it's telling you what line your problem is on. So it says expected identifier before a sign. Now, it's not giving you that much information. I wish it was giving us more information than that. It's not. So I just know it's a syntax error and it's expecting some type of identifier. I double click on it. It has the line highlighted. And you see on line 16 it says var my preloader : well, the colon is sitting there and it's waiting for something. And what it's waiting for is you're creating a variable called my preloader, but all variables have to be data typed. And in the script, what you were supposed to have done is you were supposed to data type this to the name preloader, which was already created as a data type. So if I go over here and I type in preloader and then save it, and then close the F9 window and then publish it again, that first error message is gone. Now it's still running, and now we only see one error message showing up in the compiler window. So here it says extra characters found at the end of program, but it's saying that the first issue is noticed on line 67. So I double click on this, and I already see some other problems here, but the problem with line 67, as you can see, is this open curly brace, this closed curly brace is there, but there's no open curly brace. So I have to go back up to here and put in an open curly brace. Now, just so you know, as soon as you type in function, right, and then whatever, and then even if you close it like this and you put it in the curly brace and hit the enter key, it creates your structure the way it's supposed to be created. So you need to make sure to go through the steps necessary to make the programming work, and the program tries to help you along the way. So I put in that open curly brace, but I already see another problem. Remember, the words in ActionScript that are identified ActionScript words show up as blue. When you look at line 63, it says function on complete evnet instead of event. Every spelling error, when you transpose letters like that, it is going to cause a compiler error. So now when I test it, I'm now going to get a different type of error message. So, okay, so those error messages are gone, but now we see new error message. Now, the problem with the ones that we're seeing here is they don't have a line that they're referencing. And as a result of that, we have to dig around, just knowing the words that it's looking for. So the first error here, it says variable contact is not defined. So I'm looking someplace within there for the word contact that should be spelled contact, but it isn't. Then the second one says variable remover child. Well, there is no such thing as remover child. There's remove child. So there's a spelling error again where it says remover child. So I'm looking for contact and remover child. I hit the F9 key to open up my script, and I first will go up to where the remove child function is supposed to be. Because when we create the function preloader and then we eventually remove it off the stage when the content shows, we're supposed to remove the preloader. So here on line 30, instead of saying remove child, it says remover child. Again, it's black. The text remover child is black because Flash ActionScript cannot recognize that. So I take that R off of it and it immediately becomes blue because it's an ActionScript keyword that the compiler knows what it's referring to. So we've taken care of the remover child, change it to remove child, which is the action word. We see on line 33, again it says function home, and it says evnet instead of event. Okay? And I'm just going to Okay, so we've changed that function event error there, and I could go through the whole program by going Control F and looking for the word evnet. So, and then just going replace all of them. So in case there's any spelling errors. Okay, so those were the only two. But let's go back now and see what error messages we still have, because I know there's some more. So I test it. Okay, so now we have some other errors. We see the first one, variable sound control is not defined. And then we see there's an unhandled input-output error. So we know that that's related to finding the sound file. Now, what I am going to first do is I'm going to go back to my script and find where this variable sound control is referring to. So I'm going to go SOND control and find it. So we see there's the creation of the variable sound control, add the event listener, right? And then we're listening for a sound being complete and then running the done sound, right? But someplace else, oh, okay, perfect. Look right here on line 71. Sound control here doesn't have the case matched to the variable that we created on line 51. And on line 51 it says sound control. So all of these spelling errors are just essential to repairing before you can have anything working. So now I've got the variable sound control. I've got the sound control here. I've got making sure that the function is calling that sound control in the right way. And I check my other sound controls, and they all seem to be looking the way they're supposed to. Okay, and let's run it now and see what error messages we still have remaining. I'm going to save this. And I'm going to run it. And now we see again, variable contact is not defined. So I hit the F9 key, and I'm going to go through this and look for contact. Now remember, the contact was a button on the stage, the contact button. And what we're supposed to be doing, as you can see here, the contact button is listening for an event listener. By the way, you can see there's a problem right there. Even though we haven't gotten to it yet, this event listener is the lowercase add event listener. So let's see if there's other ones like this as well. So I'll copy this, I'll go Command and Control F, and I'll say find add event listeners that are miscased like that and change them to add event listener. Okay, and then I replace all of them, and okay, it only found that one error. But sometimes if you consistently make the same error, you'll be able to fix it in that way. But the contact button is supposed to run a function called contact. So here on line 42, function is not called contact, it's called contact. So I have to fix that and save it and hit the F9 key to close my actions panel and run it. And again, we're seeing variable contact not defined 2 more times. So we go back to F9, and we have the function contact. Now it's defined. I need to save this. Oh, I don't know why it's causing the problem there, but I can see this problem is going to come up in a minute. Navigate to URL, that's another ActionScript function, and it should look blue, right? So I fixed that. And here's one of the things, again, sometimes the error message that you get is not exactly connected to what is actually going on. It's connected to maybe the function that it exists in relation to, but it could be that, for example, this spelling error was causing that error message to be generated. So we got our function contact, and we're calling contact, and that's the only place that we should see that. I'm going to hit the F9 key. I'm going to run it again. And we're still seeing a whole bunch of things saying variable contact is not defined on our final project. So we have to go back to that and maybe start at the top, see if there's any other references to the word contact. So I just contact and not replace anything, just find the different ones. So there's contact underscore button, there's contact, and there's contact. So there's only 3 of them there. Function contact event mouse event colon void, navigate to URL, new URL request, and close that function. Then contact underscore button, add an event listener, mouse event click, and contact. All of that looks right. So what we need to do is maybe go to our timeline and see if there's any problem with our controls in the navigation. So let me, oh, this is the SWIFT itself. Oh, okay, that maybe is part of the problem. There we go. So let's save this. Let's make sure that this contact button, which is in the background layer, is actually named contact underscore button, and it is. We'll save that. Now we'll run it. Okay, so we've gotten rid of that contact error. Now we have a sound control error. So we close this. We go back to our timeline, hit the F9 key, as long as we've got our frame selected. And we're going to pin this script. So now we're looking for sound control. And there on line 51 it says sound control. We fix that. On line 55 it says sound control. That's good. On line 72 it says sound control lowercase. I thought I already fixed these, but maybe the fix didn't stick. And the rest of my sound controls seem to be fine. I'm going to close that Actions panel. I'm going to make sure I've got the Flash movie selected, and I'm going to save it. Oh, finally we only have the stream error, which is referring to our path to our audio file. So I'm going to open the script again. I'm going to look for, he's looking for a file called Knight Rider, but I don't have his file here. So I'm going to put in the path to the file that I know I have. I'll close that, I'll save it, and I'll test it. And guess what? It all shows up. Notice how, because of the fact that our script was able to run, it was able to get down to the part to make sure that we don't see sound on and pause sitting on top of each other. Okay, now we see pause. We close it. I hit section 1, and it loads up the script here. The only problem is that I can already see the background layer was not saved properly. So I have to go to the section 1 movie, and I have to go to the timeline. And notice background is not set to guide. So I have to change that. I'll save it again. I'll test it. It's creating error because all these other movies are open here. So let me close some of those. And go back to section 1 and test it again. Okay, so now we're not seeing that background layer. That's what we wanted. Because if you do see the background layer, then the navigation controls that are coming from the base movie are not going to show up. Let's go to section 2. And again, the background layer is not saved as it's supposed to be saved, as a guide layer. So I save it as a guide layer, and I publish that file. And now I can close that. And now I can go back to my base movie and test. I see my sound on, sound off. Now when I go to section 1, good, I can still see my navigation controls, and I can scroll through my movie. I go to section 2, I can see the various videos that I'm supposed to see. These are different video. I can still see the images I'm supposed to see. These are different images because I did not ask for students to send me their sets of images. I can use any set. And then section 3 hasn't been published yet. So that half hour of walking through error messages that you see when you're scripting is probably a very valuable experience for you to have in terms of learning how to troubleshoot your issues with your final project. So that concludes that portion of today's presentation. Last thing I'm going to do is go over the homework that is due. So for next week, as you can see, today we really focused on the final project, concluding the final project. Since there was no one in the room with me today, there was no questions and answers, and I really wanted to focus on that final project. So you want to continue the final projects and complete the final project from page 10 through the end. At this point, your movie should be fully functional. You're going to upload section 3 to the Dropbox. I do not need any support files. So at this point, I should have received from you your base movie and your main movie, your section 1 movie, your section 2 movie, and finally your section 3 movie, which is due December 6th. Your section 1 movie and section 2 movies are due by midnight tonight, November 29th. Make sure that I receive those. I have to spend a fair amount of time troubleshooting the various errors that I'm finding in the files I'm receiving. So please make sure to get me the content that I'm supposed to be receiving, and that way I can make the necessary repairs and grade according to the number of errors that you've got. So if you do have any questions, please shoot me an email. Otherwise, I look forward to receiving your work in a timely fashion. Thanks very much. That's the end of our show.